Mhm. Good morning, creatives, community, and kind folks. Welcome to RPG with DBJ. I am your host, DBJ, and thank you, co-host, for uh, giving us a good morning. It's 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time here in the in the solo studio here. But of course, all of you who participate in the show live are the co-hosts. And Zomara, good morning there. Thank you very much for being here. Today is Tuesday, so therefore we are going to delve into Level Up Advanced Fifth Edition. It seems that there are a lot of people who are trying to find alternatives to um, fifth edition, getting away from spending their money, putting their attention into Dungeons and Dragons and Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro. So they're looking for alternatives. Of course, there's lots of attention going over to Black Flag. There are other alternatives coming onto the market, but uh, Level Up Advanced Fifth Edition came about actually during the pandemic. Full disclosure, I was a consultant and contributing writer to the Trials and Treasures book. There were three books written by N World. So today we're going to look at the Adventurer's Guide, and we're going to look at two classes, the Druid and the Fighter. And if we've got some extra time, we might take a look at some of the other books or some of the other features, because especially the Fighter, the martial classes, we'll probably do this in a separate video of just looking at the martial options, the martial schools, which is kind of like a non-magical combat capabilities for the martial classes in this version of Level Up A5E. So yeah, it's pretty interesting. So here we have the Druid, and I know we're going to get to the very thing that is going to be on anyone and everyone's mind when it comes to the Druid, and that is the iconic wild shape. Now, of course, we have ourselves some fluff. We've got some features, and um, one of the things you will see in this little two-page spread are you'll get your proficiencies. They've got light armor and medium armor and shields. Never proficient, and you'll notice here that it'll say you are never proficient with metal armors or shields. Um, this aligns very much with the classic. When I say classic, I don't mean in history, but classic with the role playing game of druids not having any access to um, metal armor and shields. Pretty standard stuff. If you've played druids before, I believe in the new one D&D playtest, they've done away with that. But again, it's a playtest. Um, this is a commonality of all the classes in Level Up Fifth Edition. So when you get to the Druid table, you'll have your to the left of the table, you have your level. Excuse me, you have your proficiency bonus, and then the nature of your features. And they receive Wild Shape at second level. Next to that, you'll see a chart that talks about wild shapes known, and at beginning at second level you get three shapes, and then you begin getting increases. Another one at fourth level, you get five shapes known at sixth, six shapes known at eighth. Excuse me, seven at 10th level, and then we get increases at 14th, and then 16th, and then 18th, and of course an extra one at 20th level. And then we have secrets. Each class has their own. Oh, y- you can customize your class as you grow in levels. And under druids, they have secrets. Each class has their own thing. I think clerics have their own thing. Fighters have their own thing. And you begin with two at first level. By the time you get to 20th level, you have six secrets. And these are like customizable traits or capabilities that define your specific druid against other druids. Mm, mm, mm. Z says, that reminds me, my game group played our bi-monthly game last night. Ooh, and are considering switching over to level up A5E. Note, I am not the GM nor brought up the topic. Oh, wow. Wow, it's starting to spread. And I've noticed on the channel, like, I'm not a really big individual that goes into like um, making videos that are are friendly to the algorithms, but I have noticed like there's quite a number of people that are like that have found the channel literally basically like looking for alternatives. And when I put a big giant level up A5E on the channel, it's like it boom boom it gets a huge it gets a huge bump. So yeah, I've got a lot of those. I've gotten huge hits on the OSR videos that I did as well. Um, I don't I don't want to be a slave to the to the algorithm, and it's not like I this is a terrible thing to say, but it's not like I want the or want or need more subscribers. I'd rather go with quality than quantity. Let's put it that way. I prefer to talk with people who are like yourself and everybody out there that's like smart, brilliant, reasonable, and that kind of thing. And the intelligence quotient can go down when the population goes up. So I'm perfectly fine where I'm at, and I love it. So okay, so let's get into wild shape. Um, there, okay. I hate this word nerfing because it the the commonplace word nerfing assumes that the way it was done before was correct and the new way makes it worse. And normally what happens is clear if there's a clear choice that one thing is better than another, then that's terrible game design. Right? So good game design means that your choices should be balanced out with every other choice so that you never fall into a trap of creating something in a game where if a player does not pick a thing that they are significantly less inclined to be able to be effective. Um, so I don't agree with the nerfing. So here with wild shape at second level, you know three wild shapes of your choice for creatures of CR one half or less that have beast or plant type. And as you gain levels, you can switch in and out choices, but you are limited to the number of choices you have, beginning with three choices. Um, Whenever you gain a level in this class, you can replace one of the wild shapes you know with a new one. And this allows you to adventure. So let's say you are a desert bound druid. So you pick in a desert region. I'm trying to come up with desert creatures other than a camel. Sidewinder snake, sidewinder snake, scorpion, and mm, all right, I'll put a camel in there. Vulture. How about that? Right, jackal or something. So you pick those three. I don't know if they apply at second level, but you get my point. And then that druid goes on an adventure into an Arctic region and see a polar bear. Maybe they want to switch one out and put a polar bear in there. So that's how that works. As an action, you can magically assume one of your known wild shapes. Okay. You can use this feature a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus. You regain expended uses when you finish a long rest. Okay, pretty simple. Now, here's the big part because one of the broken things, not this isn't nerfing it, I think one of the broken things for, and a little more complicated thing with druids was that you gain the hit points of the creature you turned into. And what would happen is players would gain these new sets of hit points, get dropped down, flip back to human, flip back out of their wild shape, and then pop back into another shape, gaining a ton of more hit points. And instead, the way that was done by the surveys, how it was described is whenever you use your wild shape feature to transform into a creature, you gain a number of temporary hit points equal to 1d4 times the creature's CR, and it's a minimum of 1d4. So as your character goes up in level, the CR levels go up. So if let's say you're able to transform into CR 5 creatures, it would be 1d4 times 5 extra hit points. temporary hit points, sorry, and tells you how long you can stay in your wild shape for a number of hours equal to your druid level, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then we go on into uh, while you're transformed, the following rules apply, talking about your game statistics. Mm, mm, mm. Oops. Um, you gain all the wild shapes, senses, movements, speeds, resistances, immunities, vulnerabilities, traits. If you take the attack action of a creature, you cannot make any further attacks that turn. While in wild shape, your armor class equals 12 plus 1/4 your druid level as shown on the wild shapes table. There is a table. While in wild shape, you may only cast spells with a range of self or touch. You still retain the benefits of any features from your class, uh, destiny, or culture, and use them if your wild shape is physically capable of doing so. And then any equipment you are wearing or wielding merges into your new form. And here's the armor class table, and it tells you what level you are able to acquire new forms. Maximum CR level, your armor class, and an example of the creatures. I put giant scorpion, but you don't get that until 12th level. But you get the point. Triceratops, 20th level, armor class 17, et cetera, et cetera. That's the big thing. That's that's the trait I believe that really turns the the class into the iconic into the iconic druidic nature. Now, there's not something known as secrets at the very end, but uh, another way of customizing a character that Level Up has done is that when you would acquire something at different levels, they give you an option at that level. So instead of being taller, you're getting more stuff, you're actually getting a broader picture. In other words, you're getting more choices, but you pick one. It would be, instead of saying, "Oh, you get a slice of cake," instead, when you get some extra dessert and you go up at a level, you get some dessert. They're like, "Okay, you can get ice cream, you can get cake, or you can get cookies. Which one do you want?" So you can't get all three, but you pick one. So, for example, under natural demeanor at third level, your connection to the natural world comes forth and becomes omnipresent. Choose one of the following, and then you can either pick a way with animals, first-hand naturalist, or ley line awareness. And by as you go up in levels, third level you get a choice, seventh level you get a choice. You can kind of customize what kind of druid do you want to be. Like, are you a more of a wizard slash clerical druid? Bending wild nature, like weather events in the environment, or are you more of a transformative um, animal nature type of druid where you befriend animals and transform yourself into animals, that kind of thing. Maybe more of a healer, oracle. Uh, uh, Maybe you fall more into a ranger styled concept where you are a master of the land, not just one with it, but you kind of dominate and or you are a destructive force of change as well as a creative life-giving one. It's okay here, third level, away with animals. Beasts understand anything you verbally communicate in Druidic, and you can comprehend them in return. So it basically just turns the Druidic language, individual special language, into one in which you can speak with animals. And then first-hand naturalist, you've learned the intricacies of nature through first-hand experience rather than academic study. So you gain an expertise die on nature checks. In addition, you may always choose to use wisdom when making nature checks. And it's more um, first-hand experience and instinct. And then there's ley line awareness. Druidic rituals attune you to the ley lines that course through the material plane. While you are on the material plane, you always know the following information: which way is north, direction of the nearest forest, direction of the nearest natural body of water, direction of the nearest city or other humanoid community, and the general health of the local ecosystem, and if anything unnatural or magical is upsetting the natural order. And while I tend to move away from like auto successes, this one is relatively, it's vague enough that it's not, it won't ruin the mystery, but it's specific enough to go when the PC is standing there on a ridge or something, like, yeah, cities to the points to points to not anything particular. Hey, the city's past that valley. The natural landscape is over here to the north, and then yeah, there's the animals are fleeing because there's something wrong here, and it's kind of like a divining sense rather than an auto sense, right? Kind of know the general health. And then the scholar of old ways, your circle, your circle taught the old magic at the root of all things, granting you eldritch insights beyond mundane arcane studies. Oops, I didn't mean to go up that high. You gain proficiency with Arcana, or if you already have proficiency, you instead gain an expertise die on Arcana checks or Arcana. In addition, you may always choose to use Wisdom when making Arcana checks. And it's the same thing. And then that's at third level, and then you gain different things at seventh level, such as Druidic Secrets or Toxic Intuition or Truth Speaker or Waste Not. And it goes on higher and higher level. And then here are the secrets. And this is another way to customize the character if you're a druid, such as aerial surveyor, aquatic delver, cavern stalker, and especially if you're like in the beginning, I mentioned like being a druid from the desert, like an aerial surveyor. If you like to transform into aerial creatures, then this is a thing that would benefit you there. Aquatic delver makes perfect sense, right? Cavern skulker, especially druids. Maybe you're a dwarven druid, down in the Underdark or something. Desert dweller. There we go. Few choose to willingly live where the sun relentlessly burns overhead, but you find tranquility amongst the sands. You are naturally acclimated to hot weather and extremely high temperatures. In addition, while in a desert or similar and arid environment, you can spend 1 hour scouring the area for food and digging for water to generate one supply. Once you use this feature, you cannot do so again until you finish a long rest. And again, these Druidic secrets, as and each character class has something similar to it. A lot of these are like exploration and or social navigable um, additions, because of trials and treasures with this fully encompassed third pillar of the um, fully developed third pillar of exploration. We wanted to give each of the characters an ability, a choice to say, "Hey, we can navigate the world in an explorative nature, and not just sit back twiddling your thumbs, not having either nothing to do or not having the capabilities to do it." So, because we Level Up 5th edition was written with exploration as a an equal part of the game. We wanted to allow that, and especially if you're a druid or a ranger, you absolutely have to have one of these things because you are. So anyway, the other choices are like Eldritch Survivor, Herbal Apothecary, Marshland Guide, Master Forager, Tundra Explorer. Where's another one in here? Mountain Climber, that kind of thing. And then of course you have your archetypes: the Guardian, um, you have the Tree Speaker, the Skin Changer, and then along with the way the book was laid out, there's also the Druid spell list. So any character types that have spells, the spell list is within the class description, so it comes at the very end. And then we have those cool list, but boring. Boring. We don't want to look through all that. All right, let's get back to the chat. So, hey Cameron, what's up? Hola. Sorry about that. Um, Z says, I was thinking of wild shape and was considering a slot method to it. You get a CR maximum for your shape, and it must be a beast and no other type of creature. You start with 2 slots, gain 1 slot every 4 levels, to a total of 5 slots, and must come in physical contact with an animal or of appropriate CR or lower. I see. I I'm with you on that. I don't know if you have to physically come in contact, but I know there's players who, if you didn't add that in there, they kind of like abuse that. But anyway, um, you can now transform into the animal. Should you try? should you try to add more animals to your slots than slots you have, the last animal in your slot is pushed out. I thought, yeah, I agree with you on that. This allows the GM to really balance out what the player can transform into while giving players options. The big thing here again with the terrible term nerf. We all know what happens is you give the player some options. The player picks the most optimal option, not necessarily the best storytelling option. And while Level Up Fifth Edition didn't do exactly what you described, Z, basically they're like, here's some slots, here's some animals you could transform into, here's some slots. If you want to switch out one as you adventure, you can. The desert druid going into the Arctic realm finds sees a polar bear, wants to add or is able to add the polar bear into their slot, then they kick something else out as a choice, right? And then as they gain another level, and then actually story wise, it kind of makes sense too. Desert druid hasn't been back home for a while, still has the giant scorpion in their thing, but doesn't have the camel or the sidewinder, or the jackal or the vulture or something like that. And then when they get back home, they're just like, I haven't been here in a while. I haven't touched this. I'm with you. I don't know if I would do it that way, but I don't have a better idea. So I'd go, yeah, I get it. I get it. It's the argument is we all know that the T-Rex is the best choice, but in the setting and the story and the exposure, like why would a character have that? And if your setting doesn't have T-Rexes, the first thing is that someone folds their arms and pouts and goes, well, you're nerfing my character. And it's like, well, if it wasn't a choice to begin with, it's not a nerf. It's you kind of need to talk to your GM or narrator about like whether you can even be these things. And we all know that here on this channel, we love to talk about the story of it, right? Yes, turning into T-Rex is only good if is only the optimal choice if the only thing that you're doing is fighting, right? A small field mouse might be more effective in someone else's story, probably in a story like I would tell, than a T-Rex would be. Because you're going to draw a lot of attention. And T-Rexes may or may not exist unless you go to some primordial space or something like that. So let's get into the fighter. And this is there's a change in the fighter that is just going to blow people's minds. And I'll tell you straight up front what that change is. Fighters in Level Up 5th Edition, and I have to put an asterisk next to this because the minute someone hears this, they might want to tune out. So stay tuned. First, fighters in this do not have action surge. They do not have that ability for them to just gain another action. But I put an asterisk on that. But they have access to 176 martial maneuvers, and within those martial maneuvers, that extra attack has been broken, split up, and improved in specialized methods so that you can customize your fighter to have certain special actions. Like maybe you pick one of the martial uh, disciplines, schools, which allow you to get more attacks with your bow, and so you're a knife thrower or a arrow shooter or a crossbow artist, or maybe you're someone who just uses double blades and you're using a long sword, short sword, right? And you want something like that. So you can the fighter is the most customizable fighter you'll ever see in 5th edition. I would dare say, having listened to the Black Flag, this beats it out of the water. As a matter, I can't grab them right now; it's too far away. I have a set of deck of cards that you can get from N World that are all of the martial maneuvers. There's 176 of them, and the cards, like spell cards, it's the same thing but for martial maneuvers. And the martial maneuvers are not magical, so different martial classes can clash with using their martial maneuvers against each other, and it would be pretty interesting. I don't know, like you could absolutely, much like movies and television, you could absolutely make a party of fighters, and every single one of them will be distinguishable from each other mechanically and flavor wise. But I don't know, like, could you do like 5 fighters or martial characters, all with different maneuvers, no duplicates, plus going up against like 4 or 5 other, I don't know, like black guards, plus their spies, plus their scouts, plus their assassins, and like I don't know, that would be kind of complicated, but it would be kind of cool to play test something like that. All right, so here we go. We've got the fighter. Of course, they have access to all the weapons, all the armors, all those. And on this table to the right here above my head, we have proficiency bonus. We got their levels on the left side of this table. And then we have our features. We have the fighting style, classic fighting styles. We've got combat maneuvers and soldiering knacks. And much like the Druid secrets, knacks are another thing to customize your fighter. What kind of fighter do you want? And the martial maneuvers and the knacks allow you to create a fighter that is not strength based, but the other 5 attributes that you have, statistics that you have. So you can make an intelligence fighter or a dex fighter, or heck, even a con fighter or an wisdom fighter. So you're able to create a warrior that is, maybe they are more of a leader, or maybe they're more, you want to make them more ranger, kind of ranger like. You can do that, and based on the story and the setting and that kind of thing. So next to Nax known, you start with 1 at first level, and they go up to maximum of 5, beginning at 17th level. And then we have, secondly, we have maneuvers known. You begin with 3 martial maneuvers, and you cap out at 17 martial maneuvers at 20th level. And then, and of course, again, you have access to every maneuver. The other martial classes don't have access to all of them. So while there can be some overlap, it would be nearly impossible to make an exact duplicate, like a duplicate ranger or herald or marshal or monk that has the exact same maneuvers as the fighter, and be and feel like you're being um uh feel like the fighter is not being able to fully develop itself. And then we have the maneuver degree. Degrees are like loosely like spell levels, and they go from first degree up to 5th degree. Uh, no, you don't get a black belt, but I guess if you wanted to throw that in your game, you could get belts or something. But anyway, you begin at first degree, and then you go up in like at 4th level, 8th, 12th, and then 16th level for the degrees that you can pick from. Let's get into back to the chat. I wish I could pop out the chat. Yeah, Z says, yeah, fair trade-off. I was going to say that fighters should have maneuvers as a level 1 skill. Oh, yes. Some of the other each of the other martial classes is a little bit different, and I think the fighter starts out with the most. So you at first level you get a knack, you get 3 martial maneuvers, and you can only pick them from first level. So you can make a broad fighter, like broad meaning that you learn martial maneuvers from various schools, or you could you could focus, meaning like I'm going to make a character that only picks them from one particular school. And of course, as you're playing your character, story wise, like I'm just pulling this out of my ass, right? Let's say your fighter came from a Viking styled barbarian tribe, right? I mean, your character class is fighter. You're not a barb. You don't have rage. You're not a berserker. But that's kind of like your cultural background dish, and that's the kind of character you play. And then you befriend, or you come across like Spartan style warriors, big shields, working together. Maybe your character learns. Well, Vikings have shield. That's different. Okay. Oh, piracy. So maybe you want to make a fighter that's more like a pirate, light armor, very maneuverable, swinging on ropes, that kind of stuff. Yeah, you can absolutely do this. So, of course, we have equipment here on the very left. There's a brigand set, a guards set of equipment, scouts set, or a squires set, and course, you have the gold piece costs, the weapons that go with it, and kind of cool. Like the brigand set has 2 dueling daggers, a garrote or garrote, a rapier, 5 throwing daggers, leather brigandine, a burglar's pack, and a vial of basic poison. Now, if I read to you this pack without talking about fighters, I think you would basically say, "Oh, so you're making a rogue." Right? It kinda reminds you of that. But no, 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 no. This is like, "Hey, I wanna make like a banditry, piratey kinda character with, dueling daggers, throwing daggers, a rapier," right? Um, let's go with the scout set. You get a great sword, 4 javelins, hide armor, medium shield, climbing gear, and explorer's pack. Or the squires set with a short bow and quiver with 20 arrows, short sword, leather brigandine, a pony with padded cloth barding, sewing kit, and smith's tools. Pony. Well, you don't have to ride the pony. You could ride the white horse. No, you don't have to be like a halfling or something like that. But maybe you're a squire to another player character, which I've played characters like that. It's kind of cool to do something like that. But anyway, we have our fighting styles. The classic fighting styles: dueling, great weapon fighting, mounted combatant, protection, archery, thrown weapon fighting, two-handed, unarmed fighting. Okay, so those are fighting styles. Then we get into combat maneuvers, and at first level, boom, boom, boom. At first level, you gain the ability to use combat maneuvers. You gain proficiency in 2 combat traditions of your choice. You learn 3 maneuvers of your choice from traditions you are proficient with. You gain an exertion pool, and all martials have this. You gain an exertion pool equal to twice your proficiency bonus, meaning 4 points up to 12 points. Regaining any spent exertion at the end of a short or long rest. You use your maneuvers by spending points from your exertion pool. The maneuvers known column of the fighter table shows you what you learned, blah, blah, blah. Additionally, whenever you learn a new maneuver, you can choose one of the maneuvers you know and replace it with another maneuver of the same degree from a tradition you are proficient with. Back to your comment there, Z. This is another great storytelling thing where you have 6 maneuvers. You start traveling the world. You learn combat maneuvers, or if you fight against other combatants, like I'm going to pick this from real world: samurai, ninja, pirates, um, um, oh, whirling dervishes. What's what's in India? What are the fighting arts in India? They ride on horseback, standing on the back of them. In Mongolia, there's some other horse riders. Um, anyway, around the world, different types of warrior types, fighter types. India, Kalari Payat is the name of the martial art, but I can't remember the name of the warriors. But you get my point. So your character travels the world, leaves the desert, with their scimitars or something, goes into the Arctic realm with their battle axes, maybe they can cut up some ice or something, and then learns maybe great weapon fighting with a big ass battle axe or something, and learns a maneuver with that. So, soldiering knacks. Soldiering knacks are a thing you can pick. You get so many at the I'll show you at the end of the character type, but you can't. My head is probably in the way. There we go. Soldiering knacks. Over the course of your training and adventures, you have picked up a variety of skills and tricks to help you make your way. At first level, you gain a soldiering knack of your choice. Your soldiering knacks are detailed at the end of the class description. And again, they are a combination of social and explorative knacks. And then along with your combat maneuvers and your fighting style and your soldiering knacks, as you gain levels, you get to choose a thing to customize your fighter. So at second level, you get a choice. You could have like closed helm. You have great control over your emotions, so it's not really a physical closed helm. Or you have heroic flair or watchful eye. And a lot of times in the character classes, when you see like these 3 or 4 point choices, based on your gaming group and the type of play, a lot of times what you'll see is you'll get a choice that's very combat focused, you'll get a choice that's very social focused, and then you may get one that's very exploration focused. Because not everybody is like rolling bones and just going from fight to fight to fight. Sometimes maybe it has to do with uh, honor and intrigue and things like that. And it gives each of the class types, including the fighter, something to do in those situations. So, for example, in Closed Helm, you have great control over your emotions. Your face is an unmoving mask, revealing nothing of what you're thinking. Creatures have disadvantage on insight checks made against you. In addition, you gain an expertise die on saving throws against being charmed or frightened. And this one is, the charmed or frightened, you can use that down in the dungeon. But this one's kind of social. Maybe you're a bodyguard, or people playing the intrigue game try to find your weakness or something, and you're able to move against that. Let's get back into the chat. Zamar says you learn their fighting styles, and more importantly, how to counter those new fighting styles. Yeah, 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 yeah. So, right, you don't. So, picking on the desert person, that's with their ally from the desert druid, and maybe they're relatives, maybe they're like siblings or something. Anyway, they go off into the Arctic region, and hey, maybe instead of learning how to fight the Viking warriors up there, I'm picking something random. Although you could go with like um Inuit native peoples, maybe something like that, right? So maybe instead they learn martial maneuvers to counter the shield wall, to counter the big two-handed battle axes, right? Maybe there's something like that. So I'm with you there, Z. It could be the opposite. Yeah, how to counter the samurai or the ninja or something. Um, Zamara also mentions, like, I also believe they should get preferred enemy based on the initial fighting style, but I don't know how to balance that out. The preferred enemy thing has problems, and the problem with like preferred regions and preferred enemies is that if you're up against your preferred enemy, you shine. If the narrator doesn't include it, it's a useless stat. And that's always been an issue, right? Like you could be a very accommodating narrator and go, if you let's say your preferred enemy, I'm just making this top of my head, preferred enemy goblinoids, right? Goblinoid humanoids, hobgoblins, goblins, bugbears, blah blah blah, right? If the narrator is like, I made an adventure that centers around undead hordes, then the character can't use it. So that's why that has been taken out. Sorry. Again, with the fighter, there's reserves, extra attack. You still have the martial lore. So at sixth level, you get three choices. 10th level, you get three choices. 14th level, you get three choices. Again, customizing your character. If you could pre-plan this out, or you could do it story wise. Like, hey, my character's been we've been running a game where we've been in wartime, and we've been adventuring in and around these hidden locations with these two countries at war. You know what? It makes more sense for my character to pick this one thing than the other when I gain a level. Um, so here we go. At the very end are soldiering knacks, and just reading them, you can tell these are exploration and social knacks that you get. Most of these are not very powerful, and they're not going to change the nature of the game. But again, these are knacks so that if your PC is in a particular location or situation, you go, you know what, I can do something here. So, for example, there's amphibious combatant, bursts of strength, um, uh campaigner. This one, burst of strength. Anybody remember 1800 strength? Anybody remember that? Anybody? If you're an old grognard, you do. Anyway, for burst of strength, it says you have moments of incredible strength. You may expend one exertion to add your proficiency bonus to a strength check, even if you already add your proficiency bonus to the check. There's the bend bars, lift gates. But anyway, there's the campaigner. Um, Clear Sight Sentinel, Extreme Leap, Mountaineer, Night Watch, Stable Footing, Weather Beaten, that kind of thing. Weather Beaten, exposed to all kinds of weather over your life. You are inured to all but the most deadly effects. You gain advantage on saving throws against cold and hot weather, as well as any adverse effects from wind or precipitation. Now, this would mean nothing in standard fifth edition because the exploration pillar is a bit underserved, but in level up fifth edition, there's all kinds of weather effects from rain and wind and storms and blizzards and dust devils and sandstorms and blistering heat and there's all that kind of stuff. So weather beaten actually has a pretty good effect. Keeps you from suffering fatigue and all that kind of business. And then, of course, we have the fighter archetypes: the brute, the gladiator, the duelist for its effects. We have the knight. We've got the sharpshooter, etc. And then we get into the herald for next week. But let me get a piece of art here, and then I will go back to the chat and talk about some other things. All right. Remark Z says, remember? No, it's before my time, but I do know. Yeah, I remember it. I remember it was you. You could get a maximum of 18 strength, but if you were I believe the rule was if you had a fighter class level and you had 18 strength, you could roll percentile dice, and the percentile dice was your 18 slash whatever percentile you roll, 18, 42, 18, 27, and then 18 double zero was like the maximum you could get to. You became like had 19 strength, and 19 and above represented the different giant class creatures. Ogres, hill giants, stone giants, ice fire. I'm trying to remember: ice fire, storm, cloud, or maybe cloud, storm, then titan, something like that. Anyway, it went up to like 25, and only like gauntlets, uh, the girdle and gauntlets that were reminiscent of like Norse mythology allowed you to strength to go even higher than that. And I think they had gloves that you could get that could give you 18 double zero strength as well. Uh, it was like gauntlets of ogre power, girdles of giant strength, things like that. So let's I'll go down into the maneuver. Let's do it. We got a little bit of time here, so we'll go down into the maneuvers. Let me go ahead and find the maneuvers if I can. Let's see, martial maneuvers. Here we go. So under martial maneuvers, we do have the different schools and the different traditions, and it goes through exertion pool. There are stances as well, and there's some prerequisites. Martial maneuvers are much like spells. So the maneuver DCs are always 8 plus your proficiency bonus plus your strength or dex modifier, much like the DCs. And basically, that is a DC that your enemies might have to roll against. If you are doing things like whirling blade style maneuvers or knocking a bunch of opponents over, they may have to make a saving throw to not get knocked over or paralyzed or stunned or something like that. And it does mention that combat maneuvers are non-magical. And I know every class has magic, but the balancing of that was under the surveys, we didn't want to make fighters a spell casting class, and also didn't want to overpower them by making them like a half caster, because then if you dipped into fighter and then you had a spell casting class, you basically doubled your power. So the maneuvers are like a 0.25 caster class if you had to put a number to it, um, with the martial maneuvers. But by making them non-magical, that also means that depending on the type of game you're running, an unarmed fighter is still pretty damn powerful, right? They might be unarmed, but even if they could pick up a weapon somewhere along the way, they haven't lost their maneuvers. It's not like they lost their spell slots or something like that. So there are some basic maneuvers that everybody can do, and those are like disarm, grab on, knockdown, shove, grapple, overrun. Everybody can do that. The wizard might not be effective at it, but everybody can do it. Here we have the lists of all the maneuvers in alphabetical order, and kind of gives you tells you what it is and maybe a little bit of a descriptor like drive back is push your foe 10 feet. Douse is da- dash a container of liquid over a nearby foe. Blind instinct is briefly see without the use of sight and use a reaction to chase down a fleeing enemy. Um, Cleaving swing, make an additional attack with a heavy weapon, etc. So it's just a descriptor. The details of it, is it a reaction? Is it a bonus action? Does it take a full act? All that kind of stuff at in the description. Again, there's 176 of them, and while some may have similarities, they may be listed under different martial schools. So different things. Under each martial title, you have the name of it. Adamant Mountain Maneuvers is here, and it gives you a 3-word descriptor, and then it goes into a little, paragraph right below that to tell you what it's about. So, Adamant Mountain Maneuvers are about hardiness, might, and power. Engaging in combat means enduring some amount of suffering, and those who make use of adamant mountain maneuvers are well prepared to weather their opponent's blows, relying not just on their might, but the careful and expert application of force in all aspects of battle. This is if you want to be really tanky, and you might get hit a lot, but you're able to take and twist those attacks back on your enemy. Biting Zephyr is about distance, sharpshooting, and thrown weapons. Not every battle requires making a close contact with the enemy, and there is an art to fighting from a distance, whether that be a few dozen feet or hundreds. Warriors that know Biting Zephyr techniques are superlative ranged combatants, not only for the deadly accuracy of their attacks, but also the myriad tricks they've mastered to routinely make shots that should be impossible. There's your ranged fighter or ranged ranger or whatever. Mirror's Glint is another school. Involves flowing, insightful, and reactive. And you'll notice with the descriptors, like some are more like con based, others might be more intelligence based, others might be more dex based. And then you've got like range combat, mounted combat, things like that. So under Mirror's Glint, at its heart, combat is a dance between opponents, and practicing the Mirror's Glint tradition means reading, interpreting, and anticipating one's foe. Using instinct and your insight from battles won and lost, you are excellent at reacting to an enemy in order to gain the upper hand. That's definitely wisdom based. What other school do we have? We have Mist and Shade maneuvers um, involving diversion, feinting, and mental. Making the wrong move in a fight can be fatal, particularly when an opponent causes such a misstep. Warriors that rely on mist and shade maneuvers are confounding their foes that play mental games amidst battle, feinting and leading their enemies into crucial mistakes they are all too ready to exploit. Also, during the development, we kind of we they wanted to create a story element to this. So, for example, maybe one or more of these martial schools is practiced in a particular region. I'll go with like ancient Mongolia might have use archery and ranged attacks, and maybe the player character from using their desert scimitars. Well, they be in a desert, they use range attacks too, but it doesn't matter. Anyway, maybe a particular community specializes in this, and they might have either particular schools or it's been generations before this community has attacked, come down from the north to attack the south, or going from the east to attack the west. And these martial techniques might be like legendary, and you could use these to award some to your player characters as well. So let's say somebody's playing this game brand new, it's too many choices, you're like, this player's do we need to go into all this? Here, just pick these 3, you're done. And then maybe as the game goes on and your brand new player is like, I really want to customize my fighter, you could like awarding rare spells to wizards, you could award rare martial maneuvers to fighters, if you wanted to like gate some of these abilities. Anyway, rapid current maneuvers for fast strikes, mobility, and swiftness. It is not always the hardest hits that win a fight. Sometimes striking first is more important. Embracing rapid blows and agility, warriors of the rapid current tradition know how to use speed to its utmost to defeat a foe. And these goes on and on and on. Let me get back into the Razor's Edge maneuvers. All right, let's get back into the chat. See what our co-hosts have to say. So yeah, Dead Man says like it's in order. It's Hill, Stone, Fire, then Ice, then Storm, and Titan. What about the Cloud Giant? There's Cloud Giants in there. I think it's Storm then Cloud. No, 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 no. I think it's Cloud then Storm. Whatever. Zabar says so thematic. Just the descriptions give me ideas for characters and campaigns. That was like in the initial. Listen, the instinct is to go, oh, let's make the ninja maneuvers, right? Let's make the knight in shining armor maneuvers, and we were like, no, we quickly threw that out. Because it ties things too much to a culture, a real world culture, and in this way, you could re-flavor these to be like, oh, well, it makes perfect sense for the dwarves in the Underdark to have this, or it makes perfect sense for the elves in the jungle to have these particular things. Razor's Edge maneuvers involve awareness, concentration, and discipline. The most impressive strikes and superlative parries are not matters of luck or circumstance when made by a warrior utilizing the razor's edge. They are the fruits of keen awareness, concentration, and ironclad discipline. And that's Razor's Edge. Some artwork there. Sanguine Knot. Sanguine Knot maneuvers involve um, being a part of a legion, teamwork, and trust. A battle fought alone is often a battle already lost, and practitioners of the sanguine knot tradition focus on the opportunities presented when an ally is nearby to help. While they may be weaker alone, these warriors are lethal in tandem, and the most they have for their companions make them truly valuable adventurers to keep nearby. And this was the compromise. Um, Again, let me go back to something I brought up earlier: Spartan warriors with their shield battle, the phalanx, shield, Viking shield wall, and sanguine knot maneuver doesn't necessarily mean you have to be part of that. Maybe you want to play a character that is I want to play a fighter, but I want to be the support for the group, right? The back-to-back fighter, the one that bumps up against the other ally and fights alongside them. This is the perfect way to pick that maneuver. It's like being the bard. You're a fighter, but you're the bard, but it's not exactly, you're not being a bard with inspiration. What you're doing is you're using martial maneuvers to, stand in front of somebody, stand back to back, stand like here. We literally have it's right in front of me. Back to back costs 1 point of exertion. It's a second degree sanguine knot bonus action. You know how to fight while surrounded by foes and can quickly instruct an ally on how to move in concert to survive against an overwhelming number of foes. Choose an ally within 5 feet. Until the start of your next turn, as long as that ally remains within 5 feet of you and is able to take actions, and both of you are unmounted, you and your ally increase your AC by 2. So there's some restrictions. You can't be mounted. Okay. And both of you have to be able to take action. So, one of you can't be paralyzed or unconscious or something. You got to be within 5 feet. But as long as you're that way, basically, you know, you don't have to have a shield, but it is kind of cool. Like you're both basically parrying attacks from other people around you. Basically, you're acting like both of you are acting like the shield for the other person. Oh, cool. Of course, you have like the charging people. Um, Tempered iron maneuvers involve confidence, conviction, and zealotry. To achieve victory over any opponent, a warrior must be confident, and those who utilize the techniques of tempered iron are certain of their every step and swing, often zealous in their pursuit of a foe and motivated by a daunting drive to succeed no matter the cost. That one, that one is kind of like, it borders the line of like fanaticism, or are you just focused on your enemy? Tooth and claw maneuvers. This is for like shape changers and berserkers and things like that. Animalistic, movement, and natural. There is a fundamental need to survive that all creatures tap into during a fight, an urge to endure that can be captured and focused to tremendous effect. Wielders of tooth and claw are animalistic in their attacks, moving around in combat and pouncing upon an opponent's every weakness. And that's basically like maybe you fight with basically tooth and claws. Very animalistic. Maybe you're playing a like tabaxi styled character or something like that. I think we're almost done. Unending wheel uh, focuses on mastery, patience, and training. There are many facets to combat: how one places their feet, an adroit grip upon a weapon's hilt, the angle of a shield arm, but achieving exceptional skill over specific weaponry can be an efficient means to victory. By patiently focusing your martial studies, you unlock secrets that general practitioners of combat never glean, and with dedicated training, you master their use. And that one is more like maybe Kensai. Yeah, yeah, I'm thinking more like Kensai. That's it. And we get on the spellcasting. Get back into the chat. I know boring image here, but let me get back to see what you guys have to say. Yeah, I'm with you. Let me put this up here. Yeah, talking about how thematic some of the martial maneuvers are. I definitely agree. I think um, I, I like the idea of, while it may seem like you're limiting different options. I like the idea of gating or like keeping some of the maneuvers or maybe some of the schools separate. Or as a matter of fact, let your players make their character, and the schools they didn't pick are could now be story wise could be how the military engages in other places around your setting, your world building, right? So if they're from the desert, maybe you pick one of the martial schools as their primary tactics, even if the NPCs don't specifically have those martial maneuvers. Maybe they do mounted combat, maybe they do ranged combat. They're very good archers. Maybe they are weapon specialists. They only use one weapon, one style of weapon, and they just focus on that weapon. Maybe they are more brutalistic and they just charge in a battle or something. I've got to drink something. Sorry. Mm. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. All right. I do want to show. Do I want to? We don't have to go into. Yeah, we don't have to go into the monster book. We don't have to do any of that BS. But anyway, let's go here. Um, again, where is it? Chapter 9 are combat maneuvers. We do have our adventuring classes, and we have a bunch of the equipment. Um, Along with so many other choices to customize your character. There are lots of ways to spend the money that you get on adventuring. There are ways to customize your martial character with the type of weapons and choices that they have. And you'll see here the weapons are divided by damage die, and then it tells you what kind of weaponry they are. Excuse me. Some of them are rare, some are ranged weapons, some are thematic in terms of like culture, real world culture, and special properties. There are more weapon properties you can add to weapons. You can actually purchase weapons to have some of these additional to customize a weapon, like two handed, the double ended bladed weapons and things like that. You can create those, and there are actually rules for those. Different types of ammunition. Cultural weapons, rare melee weapons like the Assassin's Gauntlet, double weapons, the ring blade, rare ranged weapons like the ratcheting crossbow and the geared slingshot. And if we go into shields, there's you can you can sunder a shield. See if I can find the where's the sundering shield rule? Uh improvise shields. There it is. Shield sacrifice or sacrifice shield. When you take a critical hit, you can use your reaction to block it and sacrifice your shield, turning the critical hit into a regular hit. Afterwards, your shield is broken, or if your shield is magical, it instead becomes mundane for 1 hour. And there's also rules for using helmets. There's new types of armor as well. Um, so you can wear a regular helm or a visored helm, such as if you wear a regular helm while wearing this helm, you gain expertise die on saving throws made to resist being stunned or rattled, and your passive perception score is reduced by 2. Or if you wear a visored helm, while wearing a visored helm, here we go. You gain an expertise die on saving throws made to resist being charmed, stunned, or rattled, and your passive perception score is reduced by 5. Additionally, whenever you take damage from falling, you reduce that damage by 5. And so that's a level up 5th edition use of wearing a rule for wearing helmets. There's also damage repairability because your items can become damaged. So we have armor types over here on the left, from cloth brigandine all the way to chain shirt, breastplates, the cost, the weight, your armor class modifier, the materials that it's made out of material properties, like does it have a flaw, or is it low maintenance, or is it comfortable. Um, Also, there's a little thing here called detail is it wild, meaning like can you get materials out in the wild to repair or make that armor. There's also strength requirements, stealth penalties, and then repairability, and so there's more options for that as well. I'll get out of here. Materials, fine and masterwork items. You can customize armaments with like flamboyancy or camouflaged or spiked. Maybe it's stealthy or quick draw for weapons. Donning and doffing armor. And of course, we have materials such as adamantine, cloth, cold iron, leather, mithril, and then the costs incurred. Like, for example, if you want to make mithril armor, it's lighter than steel. Mithril is a prized material for its ability to be worked into light, comfortable, and beautiful armor weapons. The weight is halved. The cost is multiplied by 3. The properties make it high quality, lightweight, and low maintenance. So you gain advantage. I believe it's low maintenance. You have advantage to repair it. Repairability is DC 25 because it's probably difficult to work. You need smith's tools and access to a forge to repair it. Whereas with leather armor, the flaw is against piercing, and the repairability is DC 10, and all you need is a sewing kit. So, with customizing shields, hands-free shield, mirrored shield, spikes on your shield, maintenance and maintenance rules, medicinals, and adventuring gear. I want to focus on the weaponry, especially for we were talking about the fighter. So let me go back to the weapons and sit right there. Here's somebody with a firearm. Let's get out of here. Zamar says, as a GM, I would make martial style packets which a player can pick from with a max number of points to spend. And that's a great way to the packet idea, like I was talking about gating it behind something, but the packet idea could very much describe like, okay, to the north, here's a packet. And then to the south, here's another packet. To the east and west, or like to the people in the jungle, the people in the mountains, here, people by the volcanic region. Here's the people that live in the caldera. Here's the people that live around the archipelago. And then the players could pick from those packets because that's kind of like the most well-known, popular, learnable techniques available out of the combat maneuvers. Yeah. But and also would make it easy. Maybe it'll make it easier for you as well. If you're a narrator running the game and you're just like rolling your eyes because the your players are like, I could pick this, but I could also pick this other thing. But maybe I want to pick this other thing, and you're just rolling your eyes like, oh, let's just get started. So that very much could be a thing. Also, let me show you. Let's see. Let's go to the Monstrous Menagerie, and I know, I'm clickety clicking. Sorry. How do I slide over? It won't let me slide. Slide. Oh, yes, it did. Here we go. Okay, it did slide over. Thank you, there, computer. I appreciate it. So under the monsters, here we have the Intellect Devourer. Under the monsters, there is a maneuver DC, and real small, much like the bloodied um, condition by the hit points, and it's bloodied. Basically, it's half their hit points. Next to proficiency, there's also a maneuver DC. That maneuver DC relates back to the combat maneuvers. So when the player characters are doing something and they have these martial maneuvers, and you need to apply them to the monsters, the Monstrous Menagerie has in it the DC that maybe a player character needs to go against to enact their martial maneuver against that creature or monster. So, for example, the Invisible Stalker here has a maneuver DC of 15. It's already been calculated out. There's a Jackalware maneuver DC of 12, and so on and so forth. Some creatures might be extremely large. Some creatures might not be humanoid, so it might be a little bit difficult to maneuver them. Like this Calcos has a maneuver DC of 15. Kobolds are probably pretty low. I'm going to say 10 or 11. I don't know off the top of my head. Oh, maneuver DC 12. They're probably quick. Okay, and low level. So yeah. And of course you could slip and slide some of these maneuvers onto these creatures. But and this is the Monsters Menagerie. We got kobold names if you need to come up with them, signs, behaviors, kobold encounters, legends and lore. But there is a maneuver DC. So if you're like, well, if I'm fighting a dragon, like what's the maneuver DC for me to trip to to I don't know, choke slam a dragon? I'm sure it's nearly impossible. But anyway, um, Zamar says, this system sounds so great. It's a lot to keep track of. Let's be honest, it's a lot to keep track of. But I will say there is a tool. So if you don't want to page flip, is it still open? A5E. Oh yeah, it's still open. Okay. So if you don't want to, I'm gonna copy and paste. If you don't want to get to like you need a tool to quickly reference a thing. And especially if you're playing, well, you don't have to play online. If you have access to a computer, go to A5E.tools. www. Sorry, let me stop. It's the number 5E.tools. And from there, can I share this window? Is sharing, is it letting me do it? It's not letting me do it. It's not coming up. I'm going to have to. It doesn't matter. Anyway, if you go to A5E.tools, you can use that, navigate through it. So if you go into the search bar, or you're trying to look up a specific martial maneuver, going back to the druid, you're trying to find a specific creature for the druid to transform into. You need a rule. Use A5E.tools. You can use it on your phone or your laptop, or you're on a computer. You're playing online, and quickly reference a lot of the rules so that you're not confused. So that's a good way to do it. It's a good way to. So let me go back to let's go back to the Level Up Adventurers Guide. So guys, thank you very much for being part of the show. Thank you. One page. Thank you for letting me delve into another 2 classes in Level Up 5th edition. Take a look at it. Like I said before, go over to A5E.tools if you need to keep track of things. Go over to N World to see what kind of conversations are happening about Level Up 5th edition. Come back here to the channel and suggest to me, like, hey, could you look at something for something or something? And I'll be glad. I'll be more than happy to do so. I've got all three books. Whenever I do these shows on Tuesday, I'll have all three books open so we can kind of do that. Zamar says it's a lot to keep track of. Yeah, as a DM, I reference 5+ documents for a one shot and try to know what items my players carry on or off their sheet. Thank you so much. If you have a wonderful day. No, thank you. Yeah, keeping track of some of these, a lot of this, it's pretty daunting. What I would do is just you know shove off all that crap onto your players. Hey, you want to play a marshal? You want to play a druid? You need to look it up yourself. And with the A5E.tools beta set, it's beta because they keep adding new references and cross references and things like that. When you go there, each of your players could find their own character classes. You still have to worry about your destiny and your culture and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Yeah. No, thank you, Z. And he's like, remember, love with your heart. For all else, try something other than D&D. Else, yes. Hey, guys, have a great day. Thank you very much for being part of the show. For other people who find the channel, just drop some comment. I read all the comments. I may not be able to respond immediately, but I do read all the comments. Tomorrow, World Building Wednesday, we're going to get into other kinds of world building and things like that. Uh, later on in the week. If you're only here for Level Up fifth Advanced 5th edition, we do this every Tuesday. So, guys, thank you very much. Have a great one. Thank you very much for being part of the shows there, Z. I really appreciate it. I kind of need a co-host. You always make me look that much smarter. So anyway, have a great day. And everyone, I'll see you later.